Okay, so see this presentation is titled Reston and East Linton Stations.
Well, first off, thank you very much for inviting me along this evening to give you an overview of the station. So it's a whistle-stop tour through what's happened, what my involvement in the project was when we went through some of the auctioneering, different structures that we looked at, materials, and a little bit of the problems that we came up against for both the stations, how we dealt with them through the project life cycle. So to say, Reston and East Linton stations, this next slide comes up. So as I said, the introductions have been done, a little bit about the history of the jobs, design, development, construction phase, and the two stations. So as was mentioned, DPE on these projects, so I put that down as a hub and spoke view to have a look at that. So I get involved with Transport Scotland, the ORR, planning consultation with the local authorities, utility providers, maintenance departments, sponsors, project management teams, residents associations, which we came up with, which I'll probably mention a little bit more about at East Linton, local authorities, again, quite a bit based at East Linton, the local authorities, NTSN, CSN requirements, how we deal with interoperability, contractors, designers, engineering assurance has been mentioned, commercial, and probably at the top of that list is the ScotRail, so about putting the passengers fast. And these are some of the organisations that I randomly picked up as I was doing the presentation. So let's say the ORR, Transport Scotland, EACOM, Arabs, we call a number of assessment bodies and Scottish Borders and the East Lothian Council. So quick overview, just way back in time. So a brief history. So Reston Station is situated, was originally situated between Edinburgh Northbridge and Berwick-upon-Tweed. Was authorised by the government body at that time in 1844. Reston Station opened to the public on the 22nd of June 1846. Reston was flanked by Grant's House towards Edinburgh and Ayrton towards Berwick. The initial service was 5 trains each way on weekdays and 2 on Sundays. The cattle auction market at Reston opened shortly after the stadium was built, and it flourished as the railway brought livestock from near and far in large cattle trains. One of these, go back one a little bit quick. One of the familiar stories, the Reston and Grant's House Station was listed closure in the first featuring report duly closed 4th of May 1965. On the photographs there, you can still see the circled in red there is the old station building. That's still there, but signal boxes and various other infrastructures already, as you can guess, no longer exists. East Linton, very similar story, opened to the public in 22nd of June 1846. And originally the station was named Linton. It was flanked by Dren towards Edinburgh and Dunbar towards Berwick. The initial services were 5 trains, similar again to Reston. It was renamed in East Linton Station in 1864. And again, as mentioned already with the Beeching report, it was duly closed in 1965. The station locations for the new stations are close, but not within the footprint of the old stations. There, obviously, the station house at Reston belongs as private residence just now, and the location at East Linton is obviously all just for the train lines that participate and due to public ownership of the properties. So again, looking a bit back in the timeline, so what happened? So back in 2002, Regis, Real Action Group East of Scotland, handed a petition of over 1,800 signatures to the Scottish Parliament. Photographed to the right there, the chap there, his name's Barry. He lives in the orchard just next to Reston Station. So he had keen interest in the project and was out daily checking on progress at Reston. Well, he was part of the group that handed over the petition to the local government. So optioneering started in 2015 following ministerial commitment from the Scottish Transport Minister. The project was shelved for a couple of years and then kicked off again in around 2019 when we got involved with BAM, Arabs and IDP architects for the design and architectural elements and looking at DRM and NTSN requirements for the station. Detailed designs were undertaken by Arabs from July 2020 and the construction phase began in December 2020. Just looking at those dates, there was a bit of an issue during the COVID period with sites being shut down along the construction period, plus we had some site issues. So it was quite a long programme for construction, which eventually got Reston completed in May 2023. Timeline for East Linton, again, similar to the above, design development optioneering started in 2015 before again the project was shelved. The IDP design started with Novels, PC and Arab was designed in 2019. The design changed, a detailed design to ACOM, and that was undertaken in 2020. Construction began in October 2021 and the authorisation station opening was December 2023 for East Linton. I'll drop this other photograph in because it's probably one of the few times we've turned up to do a project and people have actually wanted to happen. So when we turned up on one of the first days when we just having a scope and visit, there was a big banner that said Reston, where is our station? And that's from the local. So quite positive from the outset at Reston Station. So what we had to deliver for Reston East Linton, project remit broken down was 2 platforms, Reston 252 metres and East Linton 254 metre platforms. Different platform lengths because of different propulsion stuff that was going to be coming in there. So cross-country LNER visit Reston, but not East Linton. And ScotRail don't send a train service to Reston either. East Linton much more platform and it's serviced by trains going to Dunbar. Lifts and pedestrian footbridges to meet the latest network rail policy on policies at the time. I'll say a little bit about that and we'll look at some of the concept drawings. EV spaces and blue badge spaces to meet DFT requirements. And also Transport Scotland got our guidance at the time was from the DFT. So we had 70 number state car park spaces at Reston, 114 at East Linton, respectively. And that was just to do with at the time the amount of anticipated usage at the 2 stations. So Reston's very rural, but there's a lot of property development planned in the future, whereas East Linton's in the middle of a village, so there's a lot more local commuters that came to East Linton. Bringing in a new power supply and backup systems for both stations. So that's if there's a power cut or an outage, we have 3 hours backup power on the stations that back to the system. Usual type of things we shelter steam and lighting, SIS systems, so that's station information security systems such as CCTV, PA systems, or CIS monitored customer information systems. We see every run of the station that comes along. Track alignment through both the stations with gauge clearance for the trains in the section appendix. Winterization cabinets for ScotRail, that's the fancy word, just to say a GIP cabinet for salt in for when they're salting the platforms. And ultimately, we had to comply with NTSN requirements for PRMs such as wayfinding, step-free access along with braille, tactile walking routes, hearing loops, and call points. So you can see, or you can imagine that both these projects were multidisciplinary projects for the station developments. So track, we had minor sloughs and tampering works, and Reston was not too difficult, I don't believe, but East Linton, I've got a little bit to say about that in a short while. Orley, movement of gantries or portals because they were in the footprint of the station where we put in the new platforms. Civils, piling, platforms, lift shafts, construction, culverts, earthworks, ancillary civils such as signalling foundations. We had to deal with utility diversions, big water main diversion at Reston, and with that interface, there was a lot of field trains that we had to deal with, being straight for the farmer, and culverts. Signalling moves, both stations typically had a signal in the footprint of the platform, so we had to move the signals. M&E, what we'd expect at the station, lighting and distribution for the stations, telecoms, as I mentioned earlier on, systems, planning consultation and planning approval. The architects were involved with this project. It was quite significant in terms of bringing a brand new station in that sort of rural area. And we went to Network Rail's design advice panel to discuss the ribbon bridge and wayfinding, and also we had to take part in safe system integration with the operations teams and system engineers within Network Rail. Any questions so far? So this is what the end development was going for East Linton. Drop that slide in just now. It might seem a bit premature before we go through all the construction drawings, but it's really to just give you that multidiscipline look at the station. So we've got everything there from lighting on the platforms, overhead lines that we had to adjust, the new portals that we had to put in, the civils for the structure, new ribbon bridge, fencing, LLPA systems, P-valves, wayfinding for the visually impaired, and obviously the track, cope alignment. It was an all-encompassing job, and as I've said already, a multidiscipline project. Option selection. I've got a few drawings here to show the different options in better detail, just running through this matrix table, but this is really just to demonstrate the kind of things that we have to look at when we were looking at the station design. So we're looking at putting passengers first, accessibility, wayfinding, security, safety and crime deterrence, resilience, recovery, availability, constructability, operation and maintenance, and shared use and neighbourhood impacts. So we worked with Arab in developing this matrix table. It'll make more sense when we look at these couple of slides coming up with the different options I'll talk about them in a minute. But we did a scoring, and at the end of that, we pushed towards the footbridge and stairs, footbridge and lifts option for both stations. And that was mainly driven by the fact that the embankments at both the stations are circa 3.5 to 4 metres tall, and the guidance that we get for the station design guidance points anything that's over 2 metres, you should look at an alternative for a ramp. And so that's how the development went along the lines of, as I say, lifts and bridge. So on the screen there is one of the options. So this was an early design concept for the ramps. And when you look at our car park was designated, I don't know if it's coming up here, or where I'm pointing the cursor to just for now. So it kind of, from an inclusivity and elongated walking routes for people to get up to the station platforms. If you think about a person in a wheelchair, or even parents with prams, or people using walking frames or walking sticks, the problem that you would have is the car park was over here. You'd have to walk along the car park, go through a shared use underpass, come back around, and then you'd have very long ramps that go up at circa 20 degree gradient to get up to the station. So it's quite a long walking route for any but one person to make up to the station platforms. And that was one of the suggestions that pushed us along the route of using lifts and the bridge at the station. Another earlier concept was to still use the underpass and use just lifts minus the bridge with link spans, but that we were driven away from that sort of solution because the underpass Reston was a shared use underpass, so it was farm traffic going through there, and it suffers from a bit of flooding through there. So I couldn't have seen Joe Potnick being too happy with having to share the underpass with tractors and trailers and things like that. We also had to be conscious of the East Coast Main Line, going trying to take out that underpass and put a new underpass in there. It would have obviously caused a lot of disruption, whereas the solution that we came up with allowed us to not have disrupted possessions. We could build the structures off track, and we ended up putting the bridge itself in the main structure and the A-frames in during weekend possessions, because there was enough time down at both Reston and East Linton. So Although a not an exact replica of the station as it ended up being, but we drove down, we came to the conclusion that, as mentioned a couple of times already, that the lift towers and bridge with link spans was the best thing from putting the passengers first and inclusivity sort of perspective, that people who parked up there in the blue badge spaces had a much shorter walking route to get up to the platform, use the lifts, and be able to get up there to use the rail services. So this is a general arrangement drawn, just a little bit more detail there to show you a couple of other elements of the construction at Reston. It was, say, 270-metre platform to take a 10-car train. We have various escape routes or egress routes from fire safety perspective. So we've got 4 of these. We've got bespoke passenger escape routes, tarred and lit escape routes for passengers to be able to get off the platform in an emergency or evacuation situation. Because we crossed a stream or a van, we had to install culverts. I've got some photographs I'll show you in there to be able to cross over the water course. It's not particularly clear on this drawing, but from a drainage perspective, we built a suds pond to deal with the drainage on site. We've only built half this car park at Reston. It was shown on the drawings for future expansion, but like I say, when the houses come into they started to develop the houses or build them. So we just built half the car park, but we had to demonstrate that it was feasible to do it. We built a new access road down into the car park rather than use the existing residential orchard, and that allowed us to still keep this road open for a circular route around the station car park and still allow the farmer to be able to access down here to the underpass, but bypassing our car park and causing less of an obstruction for the people living on the orchard. That's what the name of the street is here. Another big significant piece of action, as I mentioned, in the multidisciplines side of things was a water main diversion. We moved it from this side of the embankment and the car park because it was less than a desirable location, and we put it over to this side of the platform 2 side of the station. Quite a lot of work's involved in that. There's a few delays just by the time we got engaged with the utilities company and moved that over. One of the sort of issues that we had with that during construction was we plowed up a lot of the farmers' field drainage and had to replace and repair that. So again, everything that gets thrown at you was thrown at us. And there was unknown cundies or gullies underneath the embankment that we didn't know about either, that we had to investigate and reconnect. Eventually we got sorted out with the farmer. East Linton, much smaller station, as I've mentioned already. Again, we moved following the similar sort of ethos that we did for Reston. It was less than desirable to have ramps up to the platforms. So we went for the lifts and the bridge for platform access. Although it's not shared access route at East Linton, the actual underpass is very narrow and not ideal for if you're looking at the whole things to PRM, wheelchairs being able to pass each other. It's quite claustrophobic, and the actual footpath doesn't go up to Network Rail, the structure does, but the underpass and the line all belongs to local authority. And again, given the size of the embankments, it would have involved a lot of long ramps to get up to the platform. So we've only got a couple of escape routes at East Linton, or emergency evacuation routes, because it's a much smaller platform. Because the main stairs were close enough to the end of the platform that we didn't put in a second set of egress stairs at the far end. One of the problems that we came across, which you have to deal with in these kind of things, is the car park. We are initially given a setting out for grid references for the car park. Unfortunately, we built to those grid references, which was the unfortunate part about it, but they were incorrect. So we fell out with the local residents because the thought that we'd actually start building in the green belt, if you like, around their property. So we had to reduce the car park size. Didn't lose many car park spaces, but it did cause a few issues. Quite clearly delayed the design a little bit by the time we had to redesign the car park. And obviously we had to go back in and replace the landscaping that we'd ploughed out, unfortunately. We were lucky enough here to be able to utilise an existing sods pond and connect up to the local drainage system. So we were quite lucky there. We didn't have to build another sods pond like we had to do at Reston. Although you see the photographs of it, it looks quite nice, the sods pond at Reston Wildlife Sanctuary. So just a couple of photographs really, just to show what we started with. So that was to the south side of, was it Reston, south side of the station, just an open field, and the south, must be the north side, sorry, from again just open fields ready for development, if you like. I'll put up these slides just for now, and I'll take you into look at the visualization for it. But it's really to get across where you go from the initial, there's nothing there on the park and you're starting at zero, to concept models and 3D models, and how close to reality those actually were by the time we came to construction. So I'll just hopefully play this video, and it should give you it should come up. I might have to swap over screens, we'll have to just see. I'll swap the screen. Stop sharing. Is that come up for the people at home? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a games developer, apparently. So this was undertaken by IDP architects, and they used, I can't remember for the life of me the name of the game company that developed this for them, but we use this for a lot of consultation, both with like the maintenance sponsors, Transport Scotland, and then when we were doing consultation with the residents and the local authorities, so they get a good impression of the station development. So yeah, this is a 3D model. This is a new road junction that we had to build, new roundabout, landscaping that we put in to meet biodiversity requirements. Just remember the name of the chap, it was Barry Forest, because that's Forest Road. I've remembered what the actual road was called. But as you can see, we're looking at those, the photograph that was in the previous slide. It's how close to reality we actually got this. Bus stops, taxi drop-off points, very wide station concourse, feature pop-ups, could go there like cafes, etc. Not bad lighting. Electric car and combined electric car play badge spaces. Interestingly, this lift tower, the two different heights of the lift tower, the one on platform one side has ground floor or car park levels, wingspan level and bridge level. The lift on platform two side is just a two-stop lift at embankment level or platform level and bridge deck level. You can see on these some of these images here is the ribbon bridge concept design, glass parapets. Doing that, and go back to the slides. Bear with me. So East Linton's always been similar to the Reston video, so I can pass this over if anybody wants to look at it, but it's basically along the same lines, has the same sort of information. So bridge types, you might have me mention the ribbon bridge structure. So where did that come from? As a result of the aesthetic concerns raised by railway stakeholders regarding existing standard 400 or 700 type style bridge or the Vierendeel UDEX type series of bridges, a design competition was put to the mark for new designs to replace the older standard bridge types. The emphasis for the designs was to be the better connectivity to the railway, aesthetics, less claustrophobic feel of the structure, and the modernisation of the stations for PR and usability. 3 new designs were chosen: the beacon, the frame, and the ribbon. Based on the location and asset team input, the ribbon bridge without the canopy was selected for Reston and East Linton stations. Just as a note, from a minimum viable product perspective, at the time, the money was not as big an issue, obviously, as what we're looking at now. And what people need to really consider is if we want to use premium materials and premium designs, that they do come with an uplifted cost. So it needs to be identified at an early stage in the base process with sponsors. So this is, like I say, to the left, the ribbon bridge, the selected option, beacon, a lot of glass involved in that structure, and the frame type structure as well. It's good to also mention some other materials that we looked at in there. So this was, for example, a cross wall construction. So we looked at block front walls, block cross walls, precast cross wall section, steel modular, expanded polystyrene, styrene, and GRP type structures. Again, through work with the designer at that time, it came out that the preferred option was precast cross walls. That was for Reston. So I'll just go through some construction photographs. Again, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask. So a lot of earthworks and embankment widening at Reston Station, benching and materials brought in to widen the embankments for the platforms. As mentioned, it was precast cross walls and precast slabs. We also had piling in there for the lift shafts, and at where the culvert was that went through the station that I mentioned earlier on, we also had to bridge that culvert, so it was precast. There was piling involved in that part of the bridge deck. So lift towers, although I mentioned we didn't need to do this under a blockade, we did need to do the overhead wiring under a blockade, but the contractor took the opportunity to deliver and install the lift towers at Reston. This is a photograph not long after the A-frames have gone in for the structure and the link spans in the main bridge deck. It's obviously pre-cladding for the lift structure or the lift tower. A few more photographs of the installation of the south tower, partially clad before it was installed. And the other tower was unclad. There wasn't time to clad it before we put it into place. And this was quite late in the construction. The track's obviously not that shape behind me, but it's a fishbowl look down at the car park development, the embankments, the newly clad lift tower, and sandstone. So materials at the top are tiles. The base of that tower was locally sourced sandstone from about, I think it was about 60 miles away to meet the requirements of the local authority. We'd originally put like brick slips in our concept design, but the preference was for the two-tone sandstone look to these towers, and it was driven by a consultation with the local authority. Again, just another view of the station, not long before it was due to be handed back. So you've got charging points, blockwork for semi-permeable or permeable blockwork for the drainage and various locations. There's the waiting shelters and bus shelters that are being put into place. I think this is not long after the car parks and stamps took place and was completed. As mentioned, the culvert, we've had two of these culverts, one each side for the emergency escape routes. So these need to go in, get obviously our SEPA licenses, and make sure we weren't doing anything that we shouldn't have been doing in terms of pollution to the water courses. And this ended up quite a nice feature. It's a sod spawned on the platform one side to deal with some of the compensatory drainage that we had to undertake at Reston Station. So just due to ground levels there, and there was an existing combined sewer, the local authority weren't keen on us or putting additional water into their sewer unless we took some of the water off that road that I mentioned, the orchard. So we took some of their water, which allowed us to put some of the water from our development into the combined sewer that was in Reston Main Street. And that was just due to ground levels and falls. So the station wasn't without its problems. One of the issues that we had to undertake or problem solve was crossing of the culvert. So what the designer had looked at was 6 metre slabs for the rest of the platform, but through a small discrepancy in the design, the slab across the culvert ended up deflecting beyond Network Rail standards requirements. The point of that was to avoid conflict or interface with the culvert below. We made the decision. So because of that issue and the deflection in it, we temporarily supported the bridge deck. There was no risk of catastrophic failure or anything like that, but we were concerned about it anyway, so we installed some temporary works there to support the underside of the slab. It never took the weight. It was just merely if there had been any significant event that it wouldn't have ended up on the track. And eventually we put in a centre pier. This involved a lot more design analysis because the main driver for us doing this along the slab or bridginess was not to have any effect on the old culvert that was under there and have to go through all the analysis. But because of this design issue, we ended up having to put a centre pier in there, and that removed the issue. So the contractor had to come back after 6 months and put the additional pier in to shorten the spans down to 4 metre spans. East Linton construction. So for the track guys here, this is a bit windy, but as you can see from the location where even on that drone there, it's not ideal in I think it's a reverse transition. So our location was a track smoothing scheme, lift and slew only, no renewal. 2 157.5 metre long platforms constructed on the existing up-Berwick and down-Berwick lines with associated infrastructure at mileage 23 miles, 220 yards. The platforms situated at a less than desirable track geometry location with straddle transitions that form right to left horizontal reverse curves in the direction of the increase in mileage. Existing and proposed line speeds of 100 miles an hour. The platform had been located within the reverse transition to limit the amount of cant within the platform to less than the allowable 110 millimetres. Early conversations with TME raised concerns with lateral movement within the platform. Laps were initially discussed as a solution, but ruled out due to their non-desirability and difficulty for maintenance. And with carrying out track work, it was later agreed that the platform construction and proposed track renewal to take place on the line with the installation of ballast shoulders throughout the station would be sufficient to address the issue. So it was basically the sweet spot of that S that we put the station. Quite a complicated design. The platform offsets were agreed to 740-900 due to the nature of the platform location. All claims to the platform are positive values, but again, because of the location, track outage, and some values fell into the reduced clearance category. But second, again, because of the back platform location, some values were greater than desired in the vertical steps, mainly for legacy salt. And as such, additional measures were taken at the platform, such as PA announcements and warning notices. The result is a new compliant station in less than desirable design location. Hope that made sense to everybody. So, a few facts before I go into looking at the construction photographs for East Linton, because it had a slightly different construction methodology to Reston. 250-ton crawler crane was on site for 6 weeks, 500-ton mobile crane for the footbridge installation, 300-ton mobile crane for access stairs, another 350-ton for crane for egress stairs, a lot of heavy plan. In terms of materials, or size, the station footprint, 7,300 metres squared, concrete use, 100 metres cubed or so, majority was precast, drainage and ducting, 1,700 metres, concrete reinforcement, 11 tonne, majority was precast, footbridge length, 29.4 metres, width about 4.1 metres, footbridge total weight, 167 tonnes, 106 platform slabs were used, and 85 platform foundation was used, and 85 platform slabs. Station cabling, 15,000 metres apparently, from the information I've been given by the supplier. And we also undertook constructed a UTX, so instead of bringing the cables across the bridge, as we had done at Reston, through UTX at East Linton. So that makes future maintenance and installation of cabling a lot easier for future projects. Again, similar story to Reston. It was despite it being earmarked for a rail halt for some time, the Suds Pond had been built with the thought that there would be a station at some point to take some of the water. Existing underpass that I mentioned earlier on there, very narrow. A lot of tree planting had taken place. It wasn't particularly mature, the tree planting, but most of this was removed during our construction and had to be replaced. The type of platform construction here, which was very quick, and if there was an opportunity to do this again, I would. It was would probably say composite type structure. So we had piling, steel pipes. These were recovered gas pipes that went through assurance process to make sure that they were suitable for the job and they'd been inspected. And then once they were driven, driven, we inserted or installed top hats on top of them. And then from these photographs, unfortunately, I don't have a better photograph of the frames on top of these steel frames, and then slabs on top of them. So not composite in terms of carbon fibre or GRP and concrete, but composite in terms of the steel and concrete platform construction. A few photographs during again showing some of these cranes lifting the structures. We didn't do any renewal of the overhead wires at East Linton, but again, there was portals within the footprint of the station that we had to construct, then move all the overhead wires onto because within the footprint, and then remove the old structures. We did do a bit of sustainability there because some of the structures were retained and used for anchors for the overhead. So for sustainability, this is what you can see here. This is one of the stays for one of the structures that we retained for the OLA. Some aerial shots as we've moved through construction. Again, this lift tower is getting clad at that point. We've still got a crane in operation. this is quite late in June 2023. Reston complete in May 2023, so this is around the opening day. New ribbon bridge structure, as I mentioned earlier, so this has got the glass to open up the railway, make it more inviting, less aggressive than maybe one of the U decks or the older style U decks might be considered. Just nice and tidy before the opening. Interesting fact that because of the blowholes that are in the railing, you can see it for the galvanised fence at the back of the platform. If the wind blows in a certain direction, it plays like panpipes. Interesting feature of the station. And again, just some more shots of the newly complete station showing the OLA, the new bridge in the background. I mentioned a bit earlier on about NTSN requirements. A lot of things that I deal with is to do with PRM, visually impaired, as well as people that are having to use wheelchairs, or like I say, parents using buggies to be able to get on the platform. So there's a lot of tactile routes throughout the station to guide people to lift entrances or to pick up help points, ticket machines, guidance from the lifts. These are all part and parcel of our requirements under the NTSN regulations. And just an overview of the station. It's one of the, I think that's a Transpennine train going through the station. And Reston Station, May 2023. And it was Transpennine Express service from Newcastle. This was the first time a train stopped there since the original station closed in 1965. So these are a lot more professional photographs. One of the guys from BAM there, QS actually took these photographs. So it's picked a really good evening for these to take them. So showing some of our recessed lighting at East Linton. Again, similar structure to Reston, one of the ribbon bridges. We deleted the crank staircase at Reston Station and just put the stairs to 90 degrees to the actual station there. So there's no need to do the crank staircase at the top of there, because these are through and through lifts from a PRM perspective. A person that's in a wheelchair comes in one door, takes you up to the platform or the big deck level, and goes straight out onto the platform. Same with the other side. One of the features of the ribbon bridge is the lift towers stand to about 45 degrees. That was implemented at one side of Reston, because that's all about people in wheelchairs being able to get in and have less of a time to be able to get out of the lifts, but it wasn't necessary here at East Linton. Again, nighttime shot, you get an impression of the amount of light and obviously the lux levels that we've got to attain here for passengers to safely use the platform. Nice right handrails for contrast for people that are visually impaired as well. And again, we've got tactile walking routes, we've got hearing loops in some of the equipment at the station. And we've got a bus stop and drop-off areas at East Linton Station. If that's the name of the chat, also black. Again, East Linton opening day, December 2023. Attended by crowds of people, bagpipe players and all sorts. That was a proud moment opening the station, and that was the end of my talk, if that's all right.
Good job. We'll just jump to the chat because there's a few questions coming in. Let's see. Okay, so Tom's asking, 2002 Rages petition had less than 2,000 signatures. Is that really all it takes to set a wheels in motion?
Public demand, it's picked up the interest of the time. It was before my time, I have to admit, but it was more an interesting fact that had come in at the time.
Just seems a low number, Jonathan.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
People normally, to do petitions successfully, use like hordes of tens of thousands.
What's 2002?
I know, but even back then, before people had access to the internet, or they could sign petitions.
Sorry, chaps, I don't have the answer for the number. It was, as I say, it came through the time. Post the auctioneering that had initially done for the ramp, so I started just looking at the project from really at AIP stage, and that's when we started to drive down the route of using the bridge and the lift. But it had sat for a while, so there had been some work previously on it. But as I say, it was X marks the spot, and that's where they wanted the station to go.
I just remember the South Borders Rail Link, there were petitions galore and signs galore gathered for that, and it was never enough. And it was certainly more than that number, and it was like, it just didn't seem to have the momentum that this has had. Where, you know, if that was the initiator, then great. You've got a small amount of people, you know, commanding a lot of my taxpayer dollar.
I think probably one of the bigger drivers would be the local development that I've mentioned. I think the thought that there'd be, or the plans, future plans for housing in that areas would probably be a bigger driver. But I think that petition went in and obviously picked up some of the imagination at the time.
From Tony, is the station car parking capacity determined more by availability of space than the anticipated patronage?
Good question. At East Linton, it was put as many car park spaces in as we could from the area that was there. At Reston, we could have put in a huge amount of car park spaces, but it was, I think we went for the sort of minimum at the time. We've been able to demonstrate that once the houses came, we could expand that car park and add to it at a later date. We didn't put into the drawings, although we put into the drawings half the car park and showing the space, and then we only built half the car park. We still had to prove to the local authority that there was more space in the development to increase that back. It needs to be at rest.
It was that idea I was trying to tease out here, where you, in the initial stages, allocate a number of car parks on the basis that, okay, let's build it and see who will come. Because, like, you know, I look at Rob Royston, I pass it every day. Rob Royston car park is in full it every day.
Yeah.
And that's because people see it there, they know it's there, they know they can get the train into town. They go there now to purposely save the car mileage to travel by train. It's the attractor.
Yeah.
And it's free as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Question there from Richard Brown online. Decision matrix has no reference to cost, a hugely important factor in determining value for money. That's a good question. She's on the top of the list.
I'm trying to think of a decent answer to come back on that. I mean, obviously we would have at the time come up with the cost for it and what we estimated it was going to be. It was a little bit more tricky at Reston as well, because of at the time when this was going on, we were looking at the difference between the ramps and the bridges. There was also that kind of the push to look at the new different type of bridge, the ribbon bridge, so it was difficult to get a handle on the costs at that point in time.
I think it's quite refreshing in a way though, that the cost maybe was a lesser factor, you know, look at the what people need cost and then the engineering factors and then what the cost in a way, but
it clearly went to Transport Scotland, and you know, they would have been that it would have been this price or this cost, and it's going to obviously it's going to be more to put the lifts in, but this is the right solution to go down going with what stands in the driver's worth. Things like station guidance, station design guidance, and Transport Scotland bought into that at that point. That's
I
a
think
good question.
just need to do things right. So if you look at Balgrave Station, I saw in the press, 18.5 million quid that's been trumpeted. Well, look at the new station that's going to be built, 18, and people go, 18.5 million pounds. You know, it's the long-term benefit of that, which people don't understand.
It is, but it's, I think one of the other factors is you just think it's just the concrete and there's some platforms and there's but it's all the other bits that's going to come in behind that. There's the big design impact, there's the integration of these systems, there's the telecom side of things, what we have to do with the overhead structure, change the structures, important materials. All people just see the structure, and you would maybe scratch your head, where's that the cost for that if you don't. But that goes back to what I mentioned earlier, the multidiscipline side of this, the fact that we've got to move the track. You know, at Balgrave, we've got to bring in a tamper and it's the materials, and how long you actually stuck what they're building it, because it's not a greenfield site. It's not, no detraction at all from building a house. But building a house in a greenfield site, you can do that during the day, no problem. But when you're looking at night shifts and everything else, the cost impact and bringing that up, but not the time you get it starts to raise the money of how much one of these jobs cost.
Perceptions as well.
Perception, yeah.
People that are PRN, like me, when you get the benefit of that access that's provided for PRN, the PRN person really appreciates it and put a value on it. This is worth, the golden mile. But whereas the able-bodied person might say, well, it's that huge ramp put there for nothing. Yeah, and it's the perceptions of the individual. You have to take in the whole of society and say, we're providing an access to the railway for all.
For everybody, yeah. Exactly.
Because that access for all, I think, is sometimes missed in the overall big ticket price.
There's no doubt about it, when Balgrave will wash its face effectively because of lots and lots of passengers going to be there. It's a bit more difficult East Linton and Reston. I regularly come through both of them, and if you're lucky, there's a dozen people using the parking spaces at Reston. Maybe a couple of dozen at East Linton, car parks. And we don't seem to be getting the result from the passengers.
I think, again, going back to Reston, it's the future plans for the area to bring in the house there. It was a ministerial commitment. I don't have the figures on hand and what they're looking back for, like the sort of payback over time for these stations. But I would say, going to Balgrave as well, there's a lot of developments planned there for housing that's getting built just now. And the funding stream is slightly different for Balgrave because it's the local authority that's going through. So that's a major, it's different from the normal sort of way coming through Transport Scotland. It's the local authority.
And you'll need to point to Rob Royston as the exemplar. The housing that's been built at Rob Royston, the people that are now using that station that would never consider travelling into town or even heading out towards Edinburgh. They go the other way too. And it's
not too many trains went in,
changing culture, okay, fair enough. But you get the Alma, people.
But I mean, it's as you touched on there, it's about the inclusivity as well. It's not people who are just using wheelchairs or walking sticks. It's like, say, it's parents with prams or whatever else, and they can make life easier for people to use that facility instead of back and forth on ramps. And then it's the whole thing of the maintenance of, if you put ramps in and somebody's got to salt it and maintain it, you're out there salting and maintaining these ramps. Yes, they have to be on the platforms, but there's different things to look at. The other side thing, I know this talk was about Reston and East Linton, but it's interesting to bring up Balgrave. Another drive for that is the connectivity to the reservoir, because the local authority have spent a lot of money on upgrading the reservoir access routes on. So part of Balgrave, we've specifically put an access route from the station down into the reservoir so people can use it as a jump off the train. It's a trail and big walking routes around to get to the reservoir, that they can get straight to the reservoir from the station. And again, doubles up.
Opens up that
area. It opens up, because I think there's a big push. I think the aspirations of the local authorities to bring it as a destination to go to because the amount of money that they're looking to spend on doing things around that facilities. And again, as talked about, it's the housing that's probably going to be going in there. It's not a huge car park, but again, it follows the same sort of things as the percentage requirements for blue badge holders and EV spaces.
A question then. Was there any lessons learned or things that you about safe by design, just workforce safety implications for the in design at all? It's something I've become more interested in over the past while.
You know, there's a few things there for access underneath the platforms, that kind of thing. That's what we're looking for. So we've got routes underneath the platforms, and we're running on ground level, so we have to put in or consult with the maintenance about how we would get it, then make sure it wasn't confined spaces. One of the other elements was putting the UTX in, like I mentioned, at East Linton, because there was at Reston we built. I don't know if the town will be quite a dry riser, but you had the lift tower and slightly wider with the containment built into it to run cables up that. You can imagine a cable pull and bring heavy cables up that and get the cables from side to side through the ridge structure. So our safer by design, if you like, a big element was we put a UTX and then bring the systems and the cable across. So the only thing excellent with the ridge carries across is, I believe it's like fibre cable for lift combs maybe, and the light for the LEDs for the lights, because everything else runs light and goes through UTX. So a lot of things that we've taken into consideration, if you're going to go for a signal and port stop, you need to know what you're going to put the equipment there. Then really you've got the opportunity, reasonable opportunity to go for a decent bit of access in for maintenance and track maintenance. If you're going to do that, and so you can use that equipment, I think on a little bit around, we've got to put the GRP yellow fencing in there so that people are coming down off the end of those platforms, they can go and use that equipment without to be able to get a website, whatever. You've got to take these things into consideration when you're building it. One of the factors that was brought in to do with and it was raised as a concern by ScotRail, because the bridges look very nice aesthetically, but it was one of the concerns about the glazing and cleaning of the glazing and concerns for the CDM. And no matter which way you look at it, you don't want to deal with water and equipment over the rail. So you need to have possession and isolation if you're going to do anything above the overhead lines anyway. But those concerns would have to bring mutes and things like that. But really, it comes down to some of the stuff that you can find on the internet. You get magnetic cleaning tools and cranked sort of brooms and things like that to be able to stand on the platform, not that can clean the glazing. Those concerns about that we had to take on during the construction to deal with that. Demonstrate how we could clean the structure, how it could be cleaned without having to, as I say, a mute on the platform or scaffolding. One or two, if you want to, anytime you want to talk about the line,
it's fascinating, isn't it? It's interesting. I've talked to some other people that have been involved in station development, and the meeting all the aspirations of the stakeholders does seem quite a challenge.
Yeah, described as often trying to have kittens uphill to get the one direction. But it's managing aspirations and realities and of what's there. I mean, we've worked really closely with ScotRail. In fact, for me, when I was looking at Dunbar station and what facilities they needed and what they wanted to see at entry into service, even for certification and that kind of thing. But it doesn't end up being a very complex requirements if to go and put in a decent location, a salt shelter or winterization cabinet for them, or put in the bins where they need them, or you've got how they access and got clean room platforms, or you bring them along to the meetings and you involve them from an early stage, and hopefully collaboratively you can come to a conclusion that it's something that they want to look after and maintain. I mean, at the end of the day, there's an alliance between themselves and obviously ScotRail. They can't manage the trains if we can't build them a station to look after.
Presumably the glazed structure on the bridge comes in a bit cheaper than a normal structure, does it?
So it's quite an expensive uplift to go and do something like we put in at Reston Leeson. That's what I was talking about, a little bit to do with MVP, a minimum viable product, but if anybody doesn't know the acronym. If people understand that additional uplift, which I'm not going to talk numbers this evening on, but it does cost more, but it's the same as if you choose between putting the steel cladding on one of the lift towers as opposed to ceramic tiles or brickwork or sandstone. If you wanted you can get, can I put it, some of the EFA projects, like Dumfries Station, for example, it's got a combined coloured lift shaft with I think it's anthracite colour and I think the bottom half sandstone, but that's a planning condition, that's what they require. So there's additional costs, and then you've got to recognise that at an earlier stage. If you, as I mentioned, if you want a premium or more expensive look to the station using premium materials, it's obviously going to cost more, but you've got to understand that at an early enough stage. If that's built in, you don't want to be going along with a project that we think it's just going to be a Verendale or a 400 or 700 series bridge and an older school bridge, and then at a later date when everybody thinks the costs are a certain amount, well, actually we want the type of structure because that's going to be a bit an uplift. And it'll also be an uplift in design costs because it's a more complex shape and more complex structure to design.
I was going to ask you, you mentioned pace. Is there anything you think of in this that pace helped? Because I'm trying to find good examples of pace. I still can't see yet what it really brings to the project.
I refer to paper. This was done with the great.
Okay.
Yeah. I brought up. Yeah, I mentioned pace because that's we replaced the grip, but it was more about making those early decisions, the sponsors, etc., making those early decisions, engaging early enough. If you want to go down that route of using a similar structure, it's the same when you're looking at any of them. You ask them the right questions at the right time. What we want in our remits and what we're looking for. If you're just looking for a bridge to go from A to B and form functionality, that's absolutely fine. But if you're looking for something that is different in an area of outstanding natural beauty or a heritage, then you have to consider that at an early enough stage. I'm not an expert on things, so I'm not worried about it. Oh,
No, that's all right.
that's a trick question.
Maybe. Yeah, I'll jump back online. Tom's going on there, which I thought about as well. The 10-car platform line, was that feature of future proofing or is the service being provided by
Future proofing. There was debates whether we made it a 6-car, 10-car, an 8-car platform at the time. So just make it for a 10-car platform that was made further up the hierarchy of network rail.
I think the problem is the LED yard does a service once in the morning and once at night time where you have to be. So it's going to be a 10-car platform, assuming it might be a 10-car train.
Richard said, regarding his previous message, I now see there is a line on cost, but still the question remains of the determined value for money. For example, why not use the existing underbridge at the north end of the station rather than the elaborate infrastructure actually used? This looks like a gold-plated station as built. Much.
So, as I said for Reston, during the discussion, that the underpass was a combined underpass or combined use underpass. It didn't belong to us either. The structure did, but the road was local authority on road, and it was also what the farmer used to access his land on that side of the station, on the other side of the station. So because of the widths of that, the underpass, you couldn't have put a compliant footpath in it and the farmer still being able to use it. And as mentioned there's the tall bit of flooding there. Now you could have dealt with the flooding and raised the level of the underside of the footpath a little bit, but then you would have affected the transport of vehicles for the farmer. You could have looked at the option of, as I said, of maybe replacing that underpass, but then it was looking at the disruption to the East Coast main line and trying to keep the service run. So we looked at taking out and replace them.
It's like all inclusion now. It's like you imagine the publicity for Network Rail if we shunted people with wheelchairs and buggies and stuff. Like they've got a quarter of a mile walk to go through underpass that come up and that. It's just not what we do as a business now. The world's changed. It's if you're building these facilities, it's to be inclusive of everyone within society. And we're all an ageing population as well, so more and more people are going to have to take the lift.
But that was the other side of the thing. That was one of the reasons that we looked at and excluded it, because of that combined use, the fact that it was not a network rail road underneath it and the disruption. Whereas the same when we're looking at the options or the optioneering that we had showed you some of the drawings of earlier, it was the excessive long access routes for anybody to get to the car park. And you can't do anything about the gradients looping backwards and forwards over 4 meters, because you have, even though 1 in 20 gradient, if you walk that long enough, it'll get hard going. And then you've got the runaway risks, and then you've got platforms and rest platforms every so often when you go backwards and forwards of this thing. So it does end up being a rather excessive route. It could look like a sledgehammer to crack a nut. And as I mentioned earlier in the talk, well, it was at that time these new developments have come out for the vision, and there was a real drive for we're going along this route to drive from the asset team. The sponsors were interested in this structure, and Transport Scotland bought into it. So yeah, I mean there is criticism there about the type of structures. You could have looked at the U-deck type structures. They still would have been expensive, the U-deck type structures, because of the spans required there for them. They still would have been expensive because you'd have a lift. They still would have had the lift towers. You still would have had to have the A-frames on it. And I think there was a little bit of a misalignment exactly what these would cost at the time. But no, that's where we ended up with it. I'm not saying that they'll get built again. There are still options out there. So obviously GRP structures, flow bridge structures, or other ones that I haven't mentioned in this talk that have been discussed and kicked about. It just depends what's the right solution for that area, and if there's money and the desire to actually build that type of structure. I don't at all take it past like the goal players. It's just how you looked at it and what the drivers were at the time.
I think for me, another thing that we introduced by having these kind of long journeys or inconvenient, it's the trespass risk as well. It's not just about being not an able-bodied person, but if you're a youngster and you're going to have to walk a quarter of a mile to get down to the platform, you're just going to run across the tracks.
Potentially.
And we know that in the past, isn't it? We've not taken that type of trespass seriously, and it's led to fatalities.
Actually from Tom there, existing track alignment with only minimal lift and slews suggests the existing geometry was good. Is the track now being maintained to a managed track position regime?
I'd have to ask Mr. Doig for that one. I'm sorry. Put that to Mr. Doig next week.
That was a wee track one. I didn't
Bearing in mind Everrail's commitment to sustainability, how much consideration was given to alternatives to concrete for platforms using polystyrene blocks?
That was in the matrix that we looked for. We looked at the different construction. It wasn't really the polystyrene was brought up, but there's concerns about undermining the track renewal with the polystyrene blocks and the sort of exposed location. And I still, at that time, bear in mind that was 4 years ago, there were still a lot of questions that weren't really answered at that time about the polystyrene. So that's why we didn't go down that route. GRP, I don't think there was much difference in the cost, but it was quicker to build because it's obviously lighter than the concrete. But no, it was considered to go back to the matrix at some point, which I can drag out and go and have a look at. Not really that send out for people to have another look at, but yeah. And the platforms. The next question: the platforms are very wide there. I think 3.65, 3.7 meters, nearly 4 meters in some locations. They are wide platforms.
Look at the camera. That's all.
No, it's and one of the big drivers for us in that respect was ramps on the trains, being able to get people around. If you deployed a ramp, putting the furniture at the back, sort of as well with that, that sort of conflict with people on the platforms. A bit to do with also the evacuation as well, getting past the trains.
It almost seems to surprise people when we say, well, we're complying with the legislation. We've got 2.5 metre wide platforms. What more do you want? You want to get wheelchairs round about access to that, and it's that 2.5 metre minimum. But you need to consider what else you need. Where's the train door? Where's the seat on the platform?
Yeah.
Is that an impediment?
And again, that's why we made the platforms really wide. I think we picked them up from what we've done at Dunbar Station, where it's one of the earlier developments we involved and made the platform wide. Then it sort of it got rid of any of the NTSN requirements, and that I don't mean it like got rid of it like taking the box, but it complied with it and allowed us to suit shore. So there's your step-free access, there's your unobstructed route. You can narrow it down at certain locations over a certain distance, but to put that platform in there with that sort of width, then we've got no issues at all with people being able to get past. And as I say, deployment of ramps, different trains, different size ramps, different operators as well that they'll use to get people off and on the trains.
Again, if Richard's not so much a fan of the station, his comment is publicly available statistics show that on average only 40 passengers per day use Reston in its first year.
Mm-hmm. No comment.
But for important people, really important people.
What I will say, go back in response to that for Richard, it was a ministerial commitment. It's Reston Station is not serviced, like say, by ScotRail. They look after it, but the Transport Minister at the time pushed for the stations to be built.
What's that thing you said about growth in the area, and then like you said about Rob Royston, once it's there, it starts to
It's a much more rural location, of course, isn't it?
And you've got to look at the reasons why they closed it. Why did they close it in the first place?
Yeah,
Well, cattle getting sold in the market, maybe.
but also, but in the 60s, like, if you worked in Edinburgh, it's probably the same in Glasgow, and you commuted in from the edge of Edinburgh, it was like, well, what are you doing? You're gonna live in Curry or Burlurno and you want to work in the city of Edinburgh? Like, that sounds like a bit far, doesn't it? And now, of course, like, people are willing to travel quite large distances. From Glasgow to Edinburgh to up now, don't they?
They want to live in the country.
Yeah.
Reston.
plus 40 people, still 39 more people that use brake stations than us. So.
Actually, moving numbers out of that.
Well noted, yes. I was one of those partners.
Thomas Cornell asked, is there a plan to facilitate clearing the glass that's facing the track and electrification? This seems to pose some, I think we probably covered that. Yeah. The follow-up one is, thank you for the answer. Magnetic cleaning tools offer hope for an elegant solution.
Well, I maybe didn't explain the I know it's only a minor element, but we've actually got a video of the guy using this. The same guy that took the photographs of. It was basically a broom that, it was almost a C shape, so you could stand inside and clean the windows of the thing. It was a concern that came up, I mean a legitimate concern. One of the things that had come out of it was originally going back to when we were looking at this, we were talking about the standard details. There was only a Form A that had been done, so we were the first project to develop up to a Form B as well through ARAPS. And the early I look at it was that the glass was on hinges and hinged it back. But then you looked at the maintainability of that. So if you had all those glass frames, and then you'd have a load of hinges that have to be looked after and oiled and maintained. So if one of those fails, you can't, it's that bit. And then even if you did that and hinged them back to go, you'd still be exposed, because the parapet wouldn't be high enough. So you'd still have to have the isolation anyway. And plus big heavy sheets of glass moving them about and unlocking them. So that's why I went for the fixed option and looked at an in situ way of cleaning the panels.
There's no doubt about it. The glass structure is a much more attractive thing, isn't it?
No, I think so.
Mr. Muirhead, he's asked no mention of the interface between the East Linton and Marco AHB level crossing at the crossing closure scheme, which is now underway. First, the interface would have been removed. Presumably, East Linton Station project had cut the cost of adjusting the crossing controls to cope with the train stopping at the station.
Good. Yes. It was actually a separate project. The level crossing project. It was going to fall under my portfolio, but it went out with it. I'm not the person to speak to about really about level crossings. There was interfacing some of the location cases and things like that. I'm sorry, I can't answer more fully Stephen's question. I'll have to decide. Should set that one. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, no worries.
So, yeah, I don't think there's any more online questions. Just scroll down. No. Any more questions in the room?
Wrap up with a big vote of thanks to Jonathan.
Yeah. So I'll just move on to the vote of thanks then. So thanks for an excellent presentation, Jonathan. It's always great to hear new stations getting built in Scotland because ultimately it shows demand and popularity for the railway, and ultimately that keeps us all in a job. So it's always a good thing to see growth. One of your first slides, we mentioned it brought home the amount of interfaces required in a project, and quite amazing to see all the resident associations, Transport for Scotland, local authorities, interoperability. It was a whole ton of things on the wheel you showed. And then, of course, you get the multidiscipline design aspect as well. You've got OLE structure moves, signals, track alignment, EP, civils, loads involved. I thought it was great to see the forward thinking in terms of the passive provision for the car park, which we discussed. Here's what we'd like to do based on the growth in that area, proposed growth, but we're not going to build on just now, but we'll leave space. That's passive provisions all about. And like any project, it's not without its challenges either and issues, but you took us through some of those and how they were resolved. I was kind of laughing at the 740, 900 platform offsets, and amazed that even in a brand new station, we still have reduced clearances and large vertical distances, but that's what members of the public probably don't appreciate is that site's been picked for a whole multitude of reasons, and the track alignment in there just doesn't allow everything to marry up. So you still have to have the PE announcements, etc. The 3D modelling is such an advantage, and I think we are really lucky in these times to have that technology. As you mentioned, for consultation purposes, it's a real bonus, and just people can totally see it clearly what's going to happen. Danger is, of course, that the models look better than the final construction, but I don't think so. Judging by your photographs, it looked excellent. I think covered everything really. Great presentation, sustainability side, all the TSN compliance, and you probably played down the challenges and the things that have got to be catered for when building a new station in these times. So again, a great presentation. I'll just ask everyone to join with me and thank you for that. For those online, unless there's any last final comments, I'll just end the call there.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Here's Andrew.